Okay, so before we get going, I really should just let my hair down. And I know I don't have the glorious mane that Claudio does, but I'm trying. So I'm going to let my hair down a little bit on this one. I'm going to put in my, I usually keep my hairband there. And yeah, let's dive into this next chapter of the growing massive saga that is whatever this one is. Yeah, let's dive into it. Father of Make Believe by Coheed and Cambria. So, Coheed and Cambria is a pretty long-standing progressive rock band and kind of like progressive in like a crossover progressive era, getting their start in the early 2000s, kind of coming out of the whole post-punk, post-rock, not post-rock, but like kind of that post-grunge, emo side of things. And I remember when they came out, I was in high school and a lot of my friends were, trying to get me to listen to them because, they have this big concept record and, it's telling this massive story. And at the time, I didn't have the bandwidth for it, because every other band sounded exactly like this. You had 30 Seconds to Mars, 5 Seconds of Summer, My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy and Snow Patrol and like all these other bands that basically just started to bleed into one another. Now, afterwards, I started to go back and, pay more attention to these bands, and some stuck. My Chemical Romance and Coheed and Cambria are one of the few that did stick, but for the most part, it's this style of music doesn't quite do it for me. If I want that aggression and I want that balls to the wall insane, I'm going to listen to At the Drive-In or the Mars Volta. If I want more of the melodrama, if I want more of the straight up emo stuff, then I'm going to go to My Chemical Romance. And if I want more of the proggy, big epic storyline stuff, I'm going to go to the Deer Hunter. So Coheed and Cambria seems to be like this Venn diagram where it's trying to do all these things and they don't quite work for me. So I'm saying all of that to give you guys context of how I'm coming into this album. In fact, the only record that I own from Coheed and Cambria is The Color Before the Sun. I've got it, back here. Yeah, and I know it's not their favorite. In fact, most people think it's their worst, but, it's the only album of theirs that I actually own in physical format. Because it's fine. It's short. It's succinct. I don't have to read thousands of comic books or know the massive lore behind what's going on. All that being said, let's talk about the album that we have in front of us, The Father of Make Believe, which is Vaxis Part 3? Vaxis Act 3. This is following The Unheavenly Creatures from 2018 and A Window of the Awakening Mind from 2022. And it is interesting following these albums, unlike the whole Armory or Emery war thing that they were doing with their past albums. I'm actually following the story as it's happening rather than trying to get into it after it all went down. So the Father of Make Believe follows this whole story. I'm not going to get into the whole story at this point because we're 3 albums in. It takes what I loved about those first 2 records as well as what I didn't particularly like about those first 2 records. What I will say is at least this one's a little bit on the shorter side. We're not quite over an hour's worth of music, and I think that works to its advantage because there's a lot going on musically in this record, and it feels a little bit like a hodgepodge, a mixed grab bag. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. They're trying to experiment, but still in their very safe, very comfortable sandbox. And where this has worked in the past with other bands, I feel like Coheed and Cambria is struggling to get outside of their own brand. Ultimately, what I enjoy about this is kind of where they have succeeded in the past. The title track, Goodbye Sunshine, The Search for Tomorrow. These tracks, they do what I actually enjoy with Coheed and Cambria. They kind of follow that same post-punk, a little bit emo style of music. It's driven. It's got that rock that I enjoy, that clear-cut rock music. But it's when we get into some of the, I guess, more melodramatic, those slower moments. Like it's the 1, 2, 3 punch of One Last Miracle, Corner My Confidence, and Someone Who Can, that it just feels slow, boring. There's nothing really to grab onto on those, and my mind definitely begins to wander. But honestly, I will take those tracks over the 1-2 punch of Blindside Sunny and Play the Poet. Both of these tracks are just, in my ears, they're obnoxious. I know that they're trying something new with a lot more aggression. There's a lot more distortion going on. Claudio is screaming away, and I'm wondering why. These are tracks that I will very easily skip. And even when I'm sitting down to listen to this album to be reviewed, half a dozen to 10 listens that I gave this record, I was just waiting for both of these tracks to end because it just felt like power tools being run right by my face. And I can get behind grading music. I can get behind challenging, aggression, noise sounds. I love Swans. I love Daughters. I love all those really intense stuff. But this just feels garage bandy. There's not a whole lot of dynamic within the mixing style, and it just feels aggravating at the end of the day. So this comes to the tracks that I haven't talked about, that whole continuum that split up into 4 tracks. And on paper, when I saw this, I'm like, ooh, a 4-track suite. Let's go. This is going to be great. They aren't, and I feel like they're doing a Steven Wilson with the overview where, it's like, oh, it's one song, but no, it's really not. And some of these tracks are fine, like Welcome to Forever is probably my favorite of these without getting into the actual favorite moment on this album. Once again, it kind of summarizes what I love about this modern, new Coheed, that it's got that rock style, it's got that aggression, it's got that drive without it being too grating, without it being too challenging. I don't even want to say it's quite dad rock at this point, but it's kind of flirting with it. The Flood and Tethered Together are both fine, but at the end of the day, for me, they're more write-offs than anything else. This comes to the closing track on this album, So It Goes, which has a ELO, Beatles, Beach Boys, kind of like the Lemon Twigs were doing with their last record. Very bouncy, very throwback to like the 70s pop rock that I wanted more of. Like, this was the kind of track at the end where I'm like, I didn't know I wanted an ELO cover from Coheed and Cambria, but now give me a Mr. BlueSky or a World Record, I like, give me an El Dorado all from Coheed and Cambria. Like that, I didn't realize I wanted that until I listened to So It Goes, but I absolutely adored it. I just wish that they didn't have this weird play out at the end of the track, but beggars can't be choosers. At the end of the day, the father of make-believe is a strange beast in the same way that both the Unheavenly Creatures and the Window of the Awakening Mind was. I have a feeling I'm not going to be returning to this one as much as those other 2 records, even though I don't return to those ones all that much either. But I feel like the benefits do not outweigh the flaws of this record. Mainly those snooze fest tracks that I mentioned before, as well as those grading tracks of Blindside Sunny and Play the Poet. So and unfortunately, at the end of the day, there's more aggravation that I have from this album than I do benefit. Now, that all being said, the title track, Searching for Tomorrow, Welcome to Forever, and So It Goes, those will be the tracks that I'll probably put on playlists for the end of the year. But that's about it. Like, I probably won't be sitting down and listening to this album from front to back anytime soon. So yeah, I think my final rating for this album will be Father of Make Believe by Coheed and Cambria is an album I would ultimately stream. Now, again, this is coming from a person that's not a huge fan of Coheed and Cambria. This is just kind of like a very infrequent observer of the band. I don't have that very special place in my heart that I know a lot of my friends and contemporaries have for albums like Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4, both Volume 1 and 2. I know people have a ride or die for this band, and I'm just not in that camp. Like I said, if I'm going to listen to this style of music, I'll listen to the Deer Hunter, and then I'll just kind of like peek over the fence and just see what Coheed and Cambria are doing every once in a while, just to keep up, just to keep tabs. But that's what I've got for the Father of Make Believe from Coheed and Cambria. What did you guys think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And I think that's where I'm going to leave you guys for today. So, thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.